Imagine showing up to your own sister's wedding, only to find your name card taped to a plastic folding chair, wedged beside the bathroom doors, where people kept brushing past you with disgusted faces every time the toilets flushed. That's where my family sat me. That's how little I mattered to them. But what they didn't know was that by humiliating me that day, they were setting up their own public downfall. And all I had to do was stand up and walk away. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or treated like you don't belong in your own family, this story is going to hit home. Hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready, because you're about to hear one of the most emotionally powerful family revenge stories ever told. I didn't realize I was the forgotten one until I was old enough to notice the difference in how my sister and I were treated. At first, it just felt like little things, like how my parents would brag endlessly about Claire's grades at family dinners, while mine barely got a polite nod. If Claire got an A, it was framed, celebrated, shouted from rooftops. If I got an A, my dad would glance up from his newspaper and say, "Good. That's what you're supposed to do." At school plays, my mom sat front row with a bouquet of roses when Claire had the lead. When I was cast as tree number 2, she didn't even show up. She said she was busy, but somehow she was never too busy for Claire. And it wasn't just academics or activities. It was everything. Claire got brand new clothes every season, sparkling dresses, designer shoes. I got hand-me-downs that still smelled faintly of her perfume. Claire's bedroom walls were painted her favorite color, lavender, with matching curtains. Mine? Beige. Always beige. My mom used to say, "Why bother redecorating? You're never in here anyway." That's what hurt most, not that they favored her, but that they made it so obvious I wasn't worth the effort. I can still remember one Christmas morning crystal clear. Claire unwrapped a shiny new laptop, silver, sleek, with her initials engraved on the back. I tore open my biggest box, heart racing, only to find a stack of books. Used ones. The price tags weren't even peeled off. And my mom, with a casual shrug, said, "We thought you'd like these since you're always reading." Everyone laughed. Except me. That morning, I learned something important. Sometimes the cruelest form of neglect isn't outright abuse, it's indifference. It created this strange split inside me. Outwardly, I played along. I smiled when Claire got attention. I clapped when relatives fawned over her. But inwardly, I shrank smaller and smaller, until I felt like I was living in the margins of my own family. When people asked my parents, "Do you have kids?" they'd beam and say, "Yes, we have Claire." Then, as if they remembered at the last second, they'd tack on, "Oh, and another daughter." That phrase stuck to me like glue. Another daughter. I wasn't their daughter. I was just another daughter. By the time I reached high school, I'd learned not to expect applause. Not to expect recognition. I poured myself into books, into quiet hobbies, into anything that didn't require their approval. But deep down, a seed of resentment had been planted. And like all seeds, it was only a matter of time before it grew. As Claire and I got older, the favoritism didn't fade, it evolved. Childhood gold star treatment turned into gold-plated opportunities. When college applications rolled around, my parents practically turned our house into Claire's war room. They hired tutors, essay coaches, even a private college counselor who charged more per hour than my monthly paycheck at the part-time cafe job I worked. Meanwhile, my applications were filled out at the kitchen table, alone. No tutors. No coaches. No one even asked where I wanted to apply. My mom just said, "State school is fine for you. It's affordable." And just like that, the decision was made. Claire's dreams mattered. Mine were measured against the family budget. I'll never forget the day Claire's acceptance letter from an Ivy League school arrived. My dad popped open champagne. Relatives flooded the house to celebrate. There were balloons, a cake with "Congrats Claire" written in bold icing, and speeches about how proud everyone was. A week later, I got my acceptance letter too. To a local state university. I walked into the kitchen, letter in hand, a tiny spark of pride in my chest. My mom looked up from her coffee and said, "Oh, that's good. At least you'll be close to home." And that was it. No balloons. No cake. No pride. I swallowed hard and tried to smile, but inside, it felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. The same pattern kept repeating. Claire got internships in New York and Europe, paid for, of course, by my parents. They helped her with flights, rent, and spending money. When I asked for a little help covering my textbooks, my dad sighed and said, "You need to learn responsibility. We can't just hand everything to you." Hand everything to me? They'd been handing Claire a golden ladder her entire life. I was just asking for a rung. Even family gatherings revolved around Claire's achievements. Thanksgiving dinners turned into mini TED Talks where Claire gave updates about her career path. She'd talk about her professors, her networking events, her projects. My parents would beam, hanging on every word. If I tried to share something about my job, or a project I was proud of, the room went quiet. Forks clinked on plates. Eyes drifted elsewhere. Then someone would clear their throat and say, "So, Claire, tell us more about New York. Do you know what it feels like to vanish in plain sight?" By my mid-20s, I had stopped fighting for their attention. I built my own life outside of them. I worked hard, carved out a career I loved in publishing, made friends who actually saw me. But no matter how far I grew, there was always that tug. That tiny, aching part of me that wanted to walk into my parents' house one day and finally hear, "We're proud of you too." Of course, that day never came. And by the time Claire's wedding rolled around, I already knew what role I'd be given. Not sister of the bride. Not family. Just background decoration. When Claire announced her engagement, it was like someone had lit fireworks in my parents' living room. My mom squealed so loudly the neighbors probably heard. My dad hugged Claire's fiancé like he'd just won the lottery. Within days, the entire household turned into wedding headquarters. Pinterest boards, vendor lists, fabric swatches. Our kitchen table disappeared under a mountain of bridal magazines. And suddenly, the only conversations my parents seemed capable of having were about Claire's big day. I still remember that first week after the engagement. I called my mom just to chat, to tell her about a promotion I had quietly worked years for at my publishing job. Before I could even finish my sentence, she interrupted. "That's nice, honey, but listen. Claire's thinking about roses or peonies for the bouquet. What do you think?" "Actually, never mind. Roses are classic, peonies are too seasonal. Anyway, you'll love the bridesmaid dresses." I hung up the phone and just sat there. My chest tight, my eyes stinging. I had wanted, just once, for her to say, "Wow, I'm proud of you." Instead, I got flowers and fabric. The closer we got to the wedding, the more invisible I became. Planning dinners? I wasn't invited. Vendor meetings? Not even asked. My role was reduced to support system, which basically meant running errands no one else wanted to do. I helped assemble invitations, but my name wasn't even mentioned on them. I stuffed envelopes until my fingers cramped, but when the family posted photos of the wedding team on Facebook, I wasn't in a single shot. At one point, I even asked Claire, "Do you want me to help with anything important? Maybe planning the bridal shower?" She laughed lightly, the way she always did when she wanted to dismiss me without sounding cruel. "No offense, but you're not really detail-oriented. Don't worry, we've got it covered." We. Not me. The bridal shower came and went. I was technically invited, but it felt more like an obligation than inclusion. I sat off to the side, watching as cousins, aunts, and Claire's friends circled her like bees around honey. Every gift was met with squeals, hugs, and tears of joy. When it was my turn to hand over the carefully chosen present I'd saved up for, she barely glanced at it. A perfunctory "thanks, sis," before she moved on to the next shiny box. I laughed it off, but inside, it felt like my heart was cracking one more time. As the months rolled on, the favoritism became so blatant it was almost theatrical. My parents acted like they were hosting a royal coronation. They talked about our Claire's big day with reverence, as if her wedding were the event of the century. Meanwhile, my name never came up. Not once. The final straw came 2 weeks before the ceremony. We were having dinner, and I asked where I'd be sitting at the reception. My mom brushed me off with a wave. "Don't worry about it. You'll have a place." A place. Not a table. Not with family. Just a place. I didn't think much of it at the time. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe, just maybe, things would be different on the day. But deep down, a voice inside whispered, "Don't get your hopes up. You already know where you stand." The day of the wedding arrived like something out of a fairy tale, for everyone but me. The venue was stunning, the kind of place you'd see in a bridal magazine. A grand ballroom with crystal chandeliers casting warm golden light. Tables draped in white silk, centerpieces of roses and candles that glittered like stars. Guests walked in wide-eyed, phones out, snapping pictures as if they'd stepped into a dream. I wore my best dress, spent hours curling my hair, doing my makeup, telling myself, this is your sister's wedding. Try to be happy. Try to belong. For a fleeting moment, I believed it. Then came the seating chart. I walked over, heart beating fast, eyes scanning the elegant calligraphy. Each table was neatly listed, family grouped together, close friends placed front and center near the dance floor. I searched for my name, expecting, hoping, to see it tucked beside my cousins, maybe even near my parents. But no. My name sat alone. Table 22. Except, there was no table 22. I looked around, confused. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe my card was misplaced. But then I saw it. In the far back corner of the room, just beyond the glow of the chandeliers, there was a single folding chair. Not even a full table, just a chair. Bare. Wedged awkwardly between the coat rack and the bathroom doors. And taped to that chair was my name card. At first, I laughed. I actually laughed out loud because it seemed impossible. Surely this wasn't real. Surely my family wouldn't sit me there, of all places. But as guests started filing past, taking their seats at the beautifully decorated tables, the truth sank in. That folding chair was my place. Every time the bathroom door opened, a wave of unpleasant air drifted toward me. Every few minutes, someone brushed by, excusing themselves as they rushed to the toilet. I had no table for my meal, no centerpiece, no company. Just me, sitting in the shadows, listening to toilets flush behind me while distant relatives I barely knew laughed and clinked glasses under candlelight. Humiliation burned through me like fire. I could feel my face heating up, my throat tightening, my palms sweating against my lap. Every polite smile from a passing guest felt like a dagger. People whispered, glanced my way, pity written all over their faces. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't an oversight. This wasn't a simple mistake. This was deliberate. A message, carved into the floor plan, you don't matter. You never did. I sat there, staring at the polished floor, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. My inner voice screamed, why? Why invite me at all if this is how little I matter? But another voice, the one I had buried for years, rose up louder. No. This is enough. This is the last time they treat you like you're nothing. And as I sat there by the bathrooms, listening to another toilet flush, something inside me shifted. I realized I didn't have to stay. I sat there, frozen on that cheap folding chair, trying to steady my breathing as another wave of laughter rolled across the room from the main tables. Glasses clinked, cutlery scraped, music played softly in the background. And yet where I sat, it was different. Cold. Detached. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and bathroom spray. Every time someone pushed past me muttering "excuse me," my chair scraped awkwardly against the wall. I pressed my palms against my knees to keep them from shaking. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I sipped my wine, but even that didn't steady me. My throat was so tight I could barely swallow. Why am I here? I thought. Why did I even come? I glanced toward the head table. Claire was radiant, laughing, glowing, a perfect bride. My parents sat right beside her, smiling like they'd orchestrated the royal wedding of the century. Their table was lit by candles, surrounded by flowers, framed for the photographer. I was hidden in the shadows, out of the camera's reach. Convenient, wasn't it? The anger bubbled in my chest, but underneath the anger was something even worse, shame. That ugly, heavy shame of realizing, once again, that your own family sees you as disposable. I wanted to confront them. To storm up to the head table, slam my name card down, and demand, "What the hell is this? I'm your daughter too." But I knew exactly what would happen. My mother would put on that tight, dismissive smile and say, "Oh, stop being dramatic. It's just a seat." My father would roll his eyes. Claire would laugh it off. And once again, I'd be painted as the problem, the bitter sister who ruined the wedding. I could hear their voices in my head already, rehearsing excuses. There wasn't enough room. You should be grateful you were invited. It's not all about you. And maybe that was the cruelest part. Because after years of being dismissed, part of me almost believed them. Almost. But then, something shifted. I looked around the room. Guests had started noticing me. Their eyes lingered as they passed, whispering behind napkins. I caught snippets. Isn't she the bride's sister? Why is she sitting there? Pity, curiosity, even disgust. And suddenly, I realized I wasn't the one who should be ashamed. They were. My parents. My sister. The people who had decided that humiliating me was worth keeping up their perfect family image. And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Staying there, sitting in silence, swallowing my pride, would only prove them right. But leaving, walking out, that would speak louder than any confrontation. I placed my napkin neatly on the chair. My hands were trembling, but not from weakness anymore. It was adrenaline. Power. I smoothed my dress, lifted my chin, and stood up. For the first time in my life, I felt taller than the room that had always tried to shrink me. And without a word, I walked toward the doors. Past the tables. Past the waiters carrying trays of champagne. Past the chandeliers glowing down on the people who had spent years pretending I didn't matter. I didn't look back. Because I knew, silence would be louder than anything I could say. When I slipped out the ballroom doors, the air outside hit me like freedom. The muffled music and chatter dulled behind me, replaced by the cool night breeze. For the first time all day, I could breathe. But inside that glittering room, my absence was anything but quiet. At first, no one noticed. A few guests probably assumed I'd gone to freshen up. But when my chair remained empty, still tucked awkwardly by the bathrooms, napkin folded neatly on top, people started asking questions. A cousin leaned over to my parents. Where's she sitting again? Why isn't she with us? An aunt frowned. Wait, you put her by the bathrooms? Alone? The whispers spread fast, faster than champagne being poured. Isn't she the bride's sister? Why wasn't she seated up front? Did they do that on purpose? It didn't take long before even the groom's side of the family caught on. His relatives, people who had never met me before that night, were horrified. One of them reportedly said, if they treat their own daughter like this, what does that say about them? The perfect image my parents had tried so carefully to stage was cracking, right in front of their prized audience. Claire noticed too. In the middle of smiling for the photographer, she asked where I was. My mom, flustered, muttered something like, oh, she's around. But when a bridesmaid pointed out my empty chair, still shoved in that humiliating corner, the bride's glow dimmed. Because suddenly, the spotlight wasn't on her bouquet or her dress or her choreographed first dance. It was on me. Or rather, on the absence of me. Guests kept pressing. Why isn't she in any photos? Where did she go? Why wasn't she seated with family? The more they asked, the more defensive my parents became. My dad tried brushing it off. It's just a seat, don't make it a big deal. But that backfired. Because the harder they minimized it, the worse it looked. People weren't buying the excuses. Not when they'd seen me sitting there alone by the bathrooms. Not when they'd heard toilets flushing as I tried to sip my wine. And here's the delicious part. It didn't end at the wedding. The story spread. Relatives carried it home, retelling it with outrage. Posts popped up on Facebook, family photos where everyone noticed I was missing. Distant cousins commented, asking, why isn't she in any of the pictures? Didn't she come? Even weeks later, at family dinners and gatherings, the topic resurfaced. My absence had become the story of the wedding. Not the vows. Not the dance. Not the cake. No. The headline of the night was, they sat their own daughter by the bathrooms, and she walked out. And that was the revenge. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to cause a scene. My silence, my dignity, my refusal to play their game, it exposed them in a way words never could. Walking away that night, I thought the humiliation was mine alone to bear. I thought my absence would slip by unnoticed, swallowed by champagne and dancing. But I was wrong. By the time the reception ended, my empty seat had become the ghost at the table. My parents scrambled to explain it away, offering flimsy excuses. She wasn't feeling well, she stepped out early. But no one believed them. The truth was obvious, glaring, I wasn't wanted. And they made sure everyone saw it. And everyone did. Within days, the fallout started. My phone buzzed with messages, distant relatives, even some of the groom's family, reaching out. We're so sorry for how they treated you. I can't believe they sat you there. We were furious. Honestly, people are still talking about it. I hadn't expected support. But now, one by one, people were taking my side. And with every text, every whispered retelling, my family's carefully polished reputation chipped away. Then came the photos. The official wedding album hit Facebook. Picture-perfect shots, my sister twirling in her dress, my parents smiling beside her, the groom beaming. But something was missing. Me. Not a single shot of me with the bride. Not one candid smile, not one posed sibling photo. The comments section lit up with questions. Wait, where's her sister? Wasn't she at the wedding? Why isn't she in any family pictures? No amount of deleting or dodging could cover it up. Every excuse they gave, she was shy, she left early, only fueled more outrage. Because everyone already knew the truth. And here's the part that still makes me smile. The bathroom seat became a running joke. At family gatherings, people whispered, half in pity, half in disbelief. Careful, or they'll stick you at table 22. Even months later, during holiday dinners, someone would bring it up. My parents' faces would flush red, their voices sharp as they tried to shut it down. But it was too late. Their cruelty had branded them. Not me. Them. My sister's wedding should have been remembered for her dress, her vows, her first dance. Instead, it was remembered for the empty chair by the bathrooms. The night wasn't her fairy tale. It was their disgrace. And me? I didn't have to lift a finger. My revenge was walking away, with my dignity intact, and letting their own actions destroy them. Sometimes revenge doesn't come in fiery confrontations or dramatic outbursts. Sometimes, it comes in silence. By walking out of that wedding without a scene, I let their actions speak louder than anything I could have shouted. I didn't have to ruin their perfect day. They did it themselves. And the beauty of it? Everyone saw. The chair by the bathrooms became a symbol, not of my worth, but of their cruelty. It taught me that dignity can be the sharpest weapon. Because while they'll spend years trying to defend their choices, I'll always be remembered as the one who walked away with her pride intact. At the end of the day, revenge doesn't always look like payback. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply not giving them the reaction they wanted. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And tell me in the comments, what's the most petty or outrageous way you've ever seen someone treated at a family event? I want to hear your stories. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more deeply satisfying revenge stories, because trust me, we're just getting started.